I don't applaud placing the whole blame on trustees of 6 boards out of 72.
Back on Closer Look on Thursday, January the 15th, across the Village Media Network and wherever you get your favorite podcasts with Michael Friscolanti. I'm Scott Sexsmith. A few shows ago, we had Sinead Dougal on from the Trillium, our expert education reporter, talking about the possibility of the Ministry of Education doing away with trustees. They've taken control of 6 of 72 school boards in the province, and we're going to dig into that a little more tonight.
It's interesting. We did receive a lot of feedback after that episode from people saying, people in the education sector saying, it was great to hear that discussion about the issue. They want to know more. They want to hear more. They want the government to be pressed about it more. And they want to know when the answer is coming because they're concerned about it. And I can tell you without a doubt that school boards across the province are concerned about this. This would be a major upheaval in how the school boards have been run for decades and decades. And so we're all kind of waiting for Minister Paul Calandra, the education minister, to tell us what this plan is. And he's kind of hinted that he's very much in favor of just scrapping trustees altogether. So we're going to dig into that a little bit more today. I think we're going to end up digging into this a few more times.
We certainly
because
will.
It will blow up into a huge story if they actually do it. But the last school board, the 6th one that came under government control, is the Near North District School Board, which serves Thunder Bay all the way down to like Parry Sound, correct? And they made headlines because right after the government passed Bill 333, which is the legislation that allowed them to
North Bay.
What did I say?
Thunder Bay.
Thunder Bay, sorry.
That's okay.
I meant North Bay.
I know what you meant.
So there you go. Thank you for correcting it.
I didn't want to cut you off.
I went to school in Thunder Bay, so it's always in my soul.
Of course.
So it's from North Bay down to Parry Sound.
All right.
Okay? Everybody got that? It's clear?
We got it. We good? All right.
No, I totally forget what I was going to say. And so they were the 6th school board that fell under government control, and that was right after Bill 33, which was the legislation that made it easier for the government to take over.
Yes, new powers.
New powers. So right after they passed the legislation, they went and took the Near North board. Jay Aspin was the chair of that school board.
Yes.
Had just been appointed in mid-November and lasted a full 13 days on the job.
Wild.
Because he came in, admittingly, at a time when things were in rough shape.
Yeah.
There were issues about a school being built in Parry Sound that was way behind schedule.
Yep.
That's been in the news quite a bit. Then there were issues with the former director of education, what was going on with him and his office and where he was actually working physically.
Yeah.
He has since resigned. But by the time Jay came in November, there were some problems.
Yep.
And then 13 days later, the ministry came in and said, no, we're taking over, so all the trustees are out of a job. So Jay's been speaking out. He wrote an open letter to Doug Ford. He wrote a letter that was published on Bay Today, which, by the way, Bay Today and our team at the Trillium have done excellent work on this particular story.
Certainly have.
Both of them doing great stuff, keeping public informed on what's happening. So Jay published this open letter, wrote this open letter, which we published, just talking about how we can't use these 6 boards as an example for everybody and just get rid of what's worked for decades and decades. Yeah. And he's been vocal about that, and because he's right on the front lines of what happened, having been fired after 13 days on the job, he has a lot to say and a lot of inside knowledge of what happened. So he's going to join us today to chat about not just what happened at the school board in his short stint as the chair, but why he's so concerned about the government's potential plan of getting rid of trustees.
As of today, the Ford government has taken control of 6 school boards across Ontario using words like incompetence, mess, and off the rails to describe how things were going before the province seized the wheel. Bill 33, which came into force back in November, made it even easier for the government to intervene. Just ask the Near North District School Board, which made plenty of headlines after becoming the latest board to be thrust under provincial control. Joining us tonight to provide some insight on this evolving story and what it means for students and parents right across the province is Jay Aspin, who just got ousted as chair of the Near North Board when the Education Ministry took over. Jay, thanks for being here. We appreciate your time tonight.
You're very welcome, Scott. Nice to be with you.
Jay, there are really lots of angles to this story, including the fact that the Ford government is floating the idea of scrapping school trustees altogether. and we're going to get into all of that. But can you start by maybe giving our listeners and our viewers a quick bio? You're a longtime trustee yourself and a politician.
Yes, I've been a board trustee with the Nipissing Board of Education originally, way back in the Mike Harris days. For 22 years. In addition, I spent 3 terms on council, 18 years, and a term as the MP for the area. So I've been around the horn a few times.
All right, I think the best way to tackle this is in chronological order. Jay, you were reappointed as a trustee back in the summer and then appointed board chair in mid-November. What was going on at the board when you first arrived?
That's got to be fair. I came back to the board. I wasn't elected last term, so after 3 years, I came back to the board, and I was only on the board for a couple of months. And I was elected chair. I was elected chair because they thought I could help with the situation. The board had been in pretty bad shape. Unfortunately, there were 4 trustees elected that were inexperienced, didn't know governance, and didn't care much about governance. So the board was in pretty dire straits. And really, when I joined it was a challenge, and I think we could have done it, but it was a little bit far gone. Nonetheless, I was willing to take on the challenge. The minister swooped right in with the guillotine type approach. I was only chairman about 13 days, and he took over the board. Now, my issue is not with that. The board was in pretty dire straits, I must admit, especially with the school. There's construction problems with the school. My issue is not with the board, and they're generally straightening that out. My issue was with the minister using both our board and the 5 other boards as kind of justification for throwing out trustees in Ontario. As a long-term trustee, I have a problem with that. Trustees have been around for 185 years, and you don't just discard the voice of democracy in education. That's the voice of the people. You just don't discard it with a knee-jerk reaction. Nova Scotia tried this in 2017. They discarded their trustees, and I'll tell you, it's been a nightmare over there. And the province is trying in any way, shape, or form to get them back. Alberta and BC have taken the reasonable, well-thought approach of educating trustees and educating boards and working with boards to improve the quality of the boards.
We definitely want to talk about all this because the key issue underlying everything that's happening is, you're right, the Ford government's weighing whether they're going to get rid of school trustees altogether. They had initially said they were going to give us an answer by the end of 2025. Now they're saying early 2026. So I definitely want to get into all that. But can we just stick just for a minute just with what was going on in the Near North District School Board when you came on as chair? There were issues with a school being built in Parry Sound that wasn't being built on time. I think there were some issues with the director. As you said, there were some challenges. What was your message to the board and to everyone when you came on as chair in November for that short period of time as it turned out to be?
When I came on as chair, the minister had issued his letter to the board, and he had 15, I guess, binding directions. And my message to the board was, we've got to take these seriously. We've got to work on them as best we can. Now, I didn't realize at the time, and I'll be perfectly open and frank about this, is the decision had already been made. Mm-hmm. There were several directions. We were working as best we could to fulfill those directions, but the minister had already decided he wanted to use the board as a pawn for Bill 33. Mm-hmm. And Bill 33 expanded the ministry's powers to not only take over boards for finance reasons, but for other reasons as he deemed appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Did you make that case to him or the ministry when they phoned you up after, like you said, 13 days and said, hey, you guys are all out?
No, the ministry didn't provide us with a case to make any case at all. The ministry simply swooped in on Monday, December 1st, and said, fait accompli. The board is now being supervised. So we had no notice, no preparation. It was, as I said, a guillotine type approach.
So you've had no conversation at all with anyone at the ministry since then?
No.
That's shocking.
We had conversations before the ministry. We had it with his chief of staff, his assistant chief of staff, and we're going quite well, to be honest with you. So it was a total surprise on December 1st. As I say, that's not my issue. My issue is his using the 6 boards, including our own, as fodder to terminate trustees in Ontario.
Jay, the school board director did eventually resign. What was your reaction to that?
Well, I think it was widely known that there were some problems with the director, and eventually the director aired those problems, and the minister took the appropriate action. Now, we were on our way to having the director retire. Unfortunately, he was on sick leave, and we had to wait that out. The minister has further powers, obviously, and he made that resignation a little closer.
Jay, we are going to get to the trustee question, so I just want to make sure we cover all the bases because there's lots of discussion. There's been lots of reporting about what happened with the Near North District School Board. The issue, the big issues was with that JK-12 school in Parry Sound. Just yesterday, the province announced that they've cut the contract with the original builder who was doing that because of all the delays. Do you think that was the right move?
Absolutely. We were on, when I say we, I mean the 4 trustees that returned to the board to provide reasonable leadership to the board, as well as myself. We were on our way to doing that. The construction was a problem. There's no doubt there was a problem. Obviously, the contractor was over his head, and that had to be done, and it would have been done.
Jay, let's get into the minister floating the possibility of scrapping school trustees altogether. He certainly hasn't been shy about that as an option. As far as he's concerned, Jay, there is no reason the Ministry of Ed's $43 billion budget should be delivered by trustees. He said he'll make a final decision on that early this year. How do you respond to that?
Well, I've given the Premier my views. I've given the Cabinet my views. And my views are that you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can't blame the misgivings in education right now, and there are several, including violence, including not adequate funding. There's a whole host of challenges in education, but you can't blame trustees. 6 boards out of 72 in the province on those ills. You have to address those ills separately and not use trustees as a distraction.
What do you think's driving this then, Jay? I mean, why do you think the government it seems so intent on doing that?
I would anticipate the minister is a little frustrated with education these days because there's lots to fix. And, I applaud the minister. He's actually attempting to right the system. As I say, there are many problems. Special education funding is a problem. Violence is a problem. Salaries overall is a problem, like health. So he's attempting to right the ship. And I applaud him for that. I don't applaud placing the whole blame on trustees of 6 boards out of 72.
What are you hearing from? Are you getting a lot of phone calls and emails from people around the province who are concerned about the same issue you are?
Well, we just got started with this, so I'm getting phone calls are beginning to trickle in. I've heard from members of cabinet, and they've thanked me for my opinion. I'm making sure the cabinet is fully aware of this issue because I think it will become a very volatile issue. There are a lot of people concerned about this. It's 50-50. There are a lot of people that just want to change, and they don't care what the change is. They want to change. And there are a lot of people that don't want to lose their voice in education.
Jay, I know that you wrote an open letter to Premier Ford, and you were kind enough to share it with us. So thank you for that. Can you tell our audience what you said to the Premier, and also wondering if you've heard back from him as of yet?
Well, I've voiced my opinion to the Premier. I know, as I've said before, it's I'm annoyed that 185 years of solid representation would be cast aside. I'm annoyed that the voice of parents and citizens would be detached from education. And I'm annoyed at the suggestion of the minister that he replace trustees by these student and family offices. They're simply going to become a bureaucratic element. All they will do is collect, complaints within the system. They have no authority to do anything. They're not the answer. And I don't believe they're the answer. I believe the answer is in what British Columbia and Alberta are doing. They're working within the system to improve their system. I don't believe you've got to detach the voice of the people from the system. And as I said, the proof is in the pudding. Nova Scotia did it, and they're sorry for it. They did it in 2017, and they're trying to work a voice system back in the education system.
One of the arguments I seem to be hearing around this is that this will be the province, or others who agree with this move or this suggestion, is this will eliminate a level of bureaucracy. This will save us some money, and we all want to save some money. When you actually look at, say, the Near North District School Board, Jay, how much was the annual budget for having trustees? How much they're paid? To having the chairperson, like what does that actually cost a school board?
Very little, very little. I think the trustee honorarium is about $8,400. Mm-hmm. I think the chair gets about $12,000. Mm-hmm. Well, we have 9 trustees, so it's well under $100,000, which Michael gives me mention of another pet peeve I have. Is the minister proposes to bring in a so-called expert. Mm-hmm. Okay, this expert is going to be paid $1,500 a day. What happened to the previous, what we did previously in education, where we got people together in the system, we got together, we worked it out, we used the advice and the experience of the people that are in the system, that know the system, and made recommendations for improvements. What happened to that? Mm-hmm. Why do we have to bring somebody completely foreign to the system, probably an accountant or lawyer, probably take 3 or 4 months to learn the system, and not be effective at all? Mm-hmm. That's another pet peeve.
It's a very interesting point. I wonder, too, and this may be an obvious, silly question almost, but how important is it to have local representation at a local school board? I mean, there is huge relevance to that, right?
It's extremely important because, being the representative on the school board in downtown Toronto is much different than Kenora, Rainy River, or even North Bay or New Liskeard. Mm-hmm. Much different. And I've been fortunate enough to be involved in associations in the North for most of my 22 years. And I can tell you there is idiosyncrasies to each school board district. And how you get that out of Queen's Park, I really don't know.
Do you have any sense on when this decision could be made? Are you hearing from anyone who might know how soon Minister Calandra will decide on the trustee question?
No sense whatsoever, but bearing in mind, if he acted as quickly on our school board, if he acted on that as quickly, it may come very soon. The legislature reconvenes in March 27th. So that is another reason why I wanted to make the Premier and the Cabinet adequately aware of concerns that we have.
Well, I hope that maybe someone in the Premier's office will listen to this program or been reading the other coverage that you've been doing, talking to people, and maybe you'll get that chance. Can I totally switch gears and ask you a different question, Jay?
Certainly.
It's fascinating because you're obviously a former Conservative MP. You served under Prime Minister Stephen Harper and with the current Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre. Mr. Poilievre has a leadership review coming up at the end of the month. Are you following that closely? Do you have any thoughts on how that leadership review is going to go?
I would anticipate that Pierre Poilievre is going to be the leader after the January conference. I don't think he has any problem in extending his leadership.
Do you think there's any lessons to learn from the last election from the Conservative Party's perspective?
Well, I think that listen to the big lesson in politics is listen to the people. And, when you don't listen to the people, majority governments are the danger of politics. When you get a huge majority government, especially after being in power for a while, you tend to get a little autocratic. You tend to say, we're not listening to the people. We know what the people need, and this is what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. And ironically enough, you ask that question, Michael. I sense a lot of this in this current debate in education. Mm-hmm. It's not, let's bring the people together. As I say, let's get experienced people. Let's talk to the people. Let's have these forums. This is what we're going to do. And that's a danger. It's a danger to democracy. It's something that we ought not to put up with.
Jay, before we wrap our time with you this evening, anything that we didn't cover on this issue that we should have? As Michael's pointed out, I was a Conservative MP, and I spent one term under Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Ironically, Paul Calandra is a very good friend of mine. He's a former colleague, and I wish him well. I wish him all the success in straightening out education in Ontario, but don't do it on the backs of trustees.
Do you think you'll be able to get him on the phone, considering your past relationship and things like that?
No, he's not taking calls these days. He's got his mitt full.
You got to go the back door, maybe, Jay. Reach out to a mutual friend or something and get a three-way call going.
I have many back doors, Michael. I tried them all, and I really don't wish to talk. What I'm saying publicly is the way I feel.
All right, there's a former North Bay City Councillor, Nipissing MP, and the latest chair of the Near North District School Board, Jay Aspin. Jay, I hope it's not another 30 years until our paths cross again. Good to see you.
I'm sure it won't be, as Scottish, especially if this issue heats up the way I'd like it to be.
Certainly from a dollars and cents perspective, $1,500 a day for a supervisor or a consultant versus what you're paying trustees, on the surface at least, looks a little...
Well, and that's really the bottom line, right, is if the Ford government goes to do this, and they've been saying the concern is the money.
Yes.
They have to show the public how it's actually going to save them money. Because if you're going to have high-priced consultants go into every school board, that's going to cost a lot of money. Of course it is. A lot of money too.
And Jay's point is a good one, right? They just can't go in on day one and start. They've got to learn the processes, the systems, the infrastructure. Yeah.
And I'm not an expert in education, and I am not a columnist or an opinion full of opinions. But I do wonder how much of this is an optics thing, because there's certain issues like education that there are people who are on one side of the debate who think that the system's all messed up, teachers are lazy, they're not doing their job. And then there's people on the other side who work in the system who realize what a difficult, challenging, and rewarding profession it is to be in that world. And sometimes you can speak to one side or the other, right? Yeah. So when you say, school boards aren't doing what they should be doing, they're wasting money, the test scores are down, that does appeal to a certain group of people that would say, it's time we need to crack some heads and do some changes. So I don't know how much of that is at play here, but it's there's no doubt people talk to me about this issue. They really do, and if they do go get rid of school trustees, it will be a massive Ontario story for months.
Oh my goodness, will it ever? And I'm not sure I agree with you. You never seem to be short on opinions.
Only when the cameras are off.
And that's where the real gold is, folks.
I made one opinion the other day and we got in trouble, but I'm not going to repeat what it is because I don't want more people to get mad.
No?
No.
All right.
Maybe later.
Maybe if we get a few more. Then we'll open it up.
Then we'll open it up.
Can open, worms everywhere.
We'll open the bottle.
I see what you just did there. All right, let's Killex that. Closer look at villagemedia.ca is our email address. And closerlookpodcast.ca to find back episodes, and of course subscribe to get it in your inbox 6 out of 7 days a week. Derek Turner, producer of this evening's program, as always. For Michael Friscolanti, the troublemaker and editor-in-chief here at Village Media, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7 right here on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.